Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stoppage Time Penalty Show with the host of the most, Tabrice, the founder of the amateur football platform. Please like, subscribe, do all of the great stuff that I know everyone does. So this show is a little bit different, and I will explain very, very briefly why. Of course, I don't know if anyone's seen, but we'll be talking about the All or Nothing episode 1. And it's the Arsenal series, very, 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 very interesting. But that's kind of almost like on a kind of side note. I've got some really exciting news that there'll be a new show happening. Probably sometime. I'm not gonna say a time, but there's gonna be a new show, and on the panel today are the hosts of the show. So let me change screen and let me introduce you to the new hosts of a new show called this week's Starting 11. So let's kind of start right at the top. We have Billy Smith. How you doing, sir?
I'm all good. Lovely to be on.
We've got Michelle at the bottom. How you doing?
Yeah, really good. Excited for today's show.
And then we have Joe as well. Joe, how you doing?
Yeah, good to Bruce, mate. You?
Yeah, yes, I'm well. Of course, I had a bit of a technical issue. It was, my life is not easy, but hey, I'm here with you guys. I'm here with you guys. So, again, just to let everyone know, there's a new show starting called This Week's Starting 11, and Billy, Michelle, and Joe are going to be hosts on this show. It's going to be some amazing amazing ideas, an amazing, I'd say, connection and vibe between all like three of them. But hey, let me not talk too much. And again, thank you to everyone that's tuning in right now. So we're going to go straight into it. We will be talking about the episode 1 of the All or Nothing. Actually, no, hold on. No. I'm doing things wrong here. Billy, what team do you support?
Chelsea.
You said I was so much pride after today.
Right.
Well done, Billy. Well done. So much pride. You're the only Chelsea fan that said it with so much pride today.
Chelsea. All the
way. And Michelle?
I support Arsenal, the one and only.
Okay. Joe?
Pompey. I'm not going to be. Well, I'm not saying these guys are biased, but the Premier League's free for all for me. I don't care who wins. I'm more interested in the games, and I've got people that I prefer. But yeah, I'm a Pompey fan.
Cool.
You, Tabrice?
Liverpool, isn't it? Liverpool. I literally let me just air a few things out. I'm not one of these plastic fans that just support Liverpool in the past 5 years. I'm like talking 15, 20 years deep, if not longer. So, I just want to make that, abundantly clear.
Yeah.
You have to these days as a Liverpool fan. But I must admit, though, when you guys won the league, I'd never seen that many Liverpool fans in London. So fair enough for making that statement, because they came out of the woodwork, literally.
100%.
Yeah, but that's the same as anyone.
Yeah. I don't know.
And also, no one likes winners.
Yeah,
no one likes winners.
No, but Man City didn't have fans that came out of the woodwork. They're still struggling to fill their stadium. So,
they've come out of the woodwork. I think no one likes winners. When United used to win everything, everyone hated them. Liverpool last couple of years, everyone can't stand it that they've won the league again and they're a good side. Chelsea brought the league and no one could stand them. Man City brought the league with today's modern football. No one likes winners.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm happy to be in League One at the moment.
Although when Arsenal were winning, to be fair, no one had any kind of biases against us, to be fair. I mean, we weren't champions for a long time. I mean, we had a couple of good seasons, won the league, two times, 3 times?
Yeah, but for a decade, you were probably the only challengers to United. So,
yeah, true.
But I think that's why Jose Mourinho did a good job at Chelsea. The fact that he came in,
he mixed that up. Yeah, he broke that.
Wenger with Arsenal, Mourinho comes in with Chelsea and completely wipes it.
Yeah. Anyway, guys,
I'm not biased.
So Actually, see, you know what, guys? You know, anyone that's listening, this is how like those three speak. Honestly, like they just kind of bounce out, and literally, it's just conversations about football. So this is literally why I know this is going to work. Good evening, Sean. Hope you are well. So let's go straight into it. Michelle, I want to start with you first. Your overall feelings about episode 1 of the All or Nothing series.
Not gonna lie, it was traumatic. Took me back to those dark days. I'm not gonna lie, but do you know what it was? I mean, then I had to quickly watch the second one because we knew the North London derby was coming up. But do you know what? As bad as it was, I kind of then started to see the second phase of the process with Arsenal. I think for a long time, I think when Arteta came in, I was excited. I mean, he was a great player for us, and obviously Everton before that, and a great kind of captain. But I didn't quite understand the process. And actually watching that episode, I was like, actually, to be fair, like comparing it the season to now, like, you know, us losing the first 3 games, like currently we've won the first 3, like we're seeing the process. And it was, you know, it was never the problem in terms of it was this consistency. It was like against the top 6, that's what was our downfall last season. And I'm hoping this season like that kind of turns. But I think the first episode really reminded me, like, especially now, how far. I say how far. I mean, it is only 3 games, and I'm getting so gassed. But I'm a typical Arsenal fan. Literally, I already think we're going to. But I think
won the league.
We've won it. In my head, I was just like, we've won it. We've not played any of the top 6 sides, but we've won it. But I think that first episode was quite. What I think was good about it was the fact that we got to see that the players and Arteta cared, because as an Arsenal fan, we were like, if they don't care, like it was that first season post-pandemic, like we weren't allowed in the stadiums, and like we were all there, like in that season, like all gas going, right, fair enough, we didn't make European football for the first time in like how many years. We're standing by you. We lost 3 games, but like seeing the players, the care, and like every game they wanted to do better. I do think that there was a few issues in terms of they didn't go into depth about, you know, when they said, look, Lacazette and Aubameyang was ill, that kind of like first couple of games, I was a bit like, were they ill? Was there problems? Was there discipline problems? I thought they could have brought that out a bit more, but I don't know. Maybe they were generally ill, but I thought there was discipline issues. But that's the only thing I thought was kind of missing from that first episode.
Cool. Same question to Joe.
Yeah, just finishing that point, Michelle. I think they were genuinely ill, but if they, you know, you're an Arsenal fan, so maybe you know a little bit more about that. But I think the thing that surprised me about the show, I weren't surprised about Arteta's approach, because he's been with Guardiola. Guardiola rates him. To be fair, I thought it was a massive job, the Arsenal job, for him when he got offered it, and I was a bit perplexed for sort of his first job to get offered something like that. But to be in that position, he must have contacts in the industry that really rate him highly, because these decisions are not made overnight. But the main thing I was impressed with is the owner's son on the board, the director, his positivity and understanding. And actually, I thought he was quite in tune with the fans. And I was quite surprised about that, even to the point where we'll probably discuss it a bit later on, I'd imagine. But even to the point where he was backing Arteta to ensure that he sort of had the mentality to take him forward. And you don't see stuff like, I mean, it's all right watching the show now, but at the time, Arsenal fans were detached from the club. You know, the CEOs and the board did, you know, apparently not care, but clearly wasn't the case.
Yeah. And Billy.
I mean, watching the first episode, yeah, I completely agree with what Michelle and Joe said. I think one thing that really intrigued me about it was how, like Joe just said, how detached the fans were from the actual club itself. Arteta, everyone hated him. Everyone wanted him out. Everyone thought he was useless. And it just shows that behind closed doors that there is potential there, no matter who it is. Like, I feel that, yeah, potentially managers get hate. It definitely shows it a bit more with the show, but how managers are so easy getting hate for just not even starting it yet. Arsenal, the thing is, they took Arteta and they wanted a project out of him. And you can see now how he's delivering on that. But at the start, they knew that they wanted a project out of him, but the fans just didn't rate him. they would.
I think it's more of the fact that we just didn't have the patience. That's the bottom line, right? I think like every team that have lost a long-standing manager has gone through like a spiral. Like Liverpool, to Brees, you know that for a fact. After Benitez, you guys spiraled. Like Chelsea, to be fair, Chelsea's probably one of the only teams that never really spiraled. I mean, after Mourinho, you did a bit, but then you beat Spurs and then helped Leicester win the title. So I still feel like you guys are heroes. But I think you guys spiraled a bit, but you had the money to back it, so you could actually still invest in players, etc. But I think mostly, like Man United go for it now, like they're not going to get out of that spiraling kind of like process. When you lose a long-standing manager, that always happens. I think with Arteta, I think we just didn't have the patience. Like I think we'd seen other like clubs like Chelsea that will fire people straight off the bat if you don't perform. And we just kind of saw that and thought, well, Arsenal's a big enough club. Like, why are we not doing the same? And I must admit, like, I loved Arteta, so I was a bit like, I trust it. But it got to a point, even for me, I was just like, I don't think he's the man for the job. But what
Michelle,
yeah, go on.
I was going to say, do you think the impatience was because Wenger certainly sort of probably stayed 2 years, I'd say, over when he should have left, and then you had Villarreal coach now. What's his name? Emery. And do you think the patience was so quickly run out because of the extended Wenger period and the projects that didn't work with Unai Emery?
Right.
Because you're already at a stage where you've probably had 4 to 5 years of almost nothingness in terms of development. And that's why I thought Arsenal sort of wore quite thin quite early on.
Yeah, and I think it's small things. I say small things. It's stuff like us dropping out of like European football. I think like before everyone used to be like, oh, Arsenal top 4, that's all we're aiming for. But it's amazing how the game's changed. Like everyone's like vying for top 4. Like these days, like Man City, Liverpool kind of gone, but everyone's fighting for those top 4 spots. Whereas back in the day when Arsenal were getting it consistently, everyone was a bit like, that's all we're aiming for. Fair enough, granted, we should be aiming for the league, but like ultimately, like Wenger did do a good job there, and actually Emery did. He took us to like Europa League final. So I don't think it's because of the fact that like they stayed too long, or that. I just think for us, we're a big club, and actually like we've got some of the players, and actually the Wenger team, Emery team as well. They were quite similar, but we still got European football. So we're like Arteta, you've kind of got like slightly better team, but you're still not producing. So I think that's where the frustration came from Arsenal fans, because they were like, we can see the potential, but we're not seeing the results just yet. So I mean, that's my personal opinion. There might be other Arsenal fans here that probably agree with that, but for me, it was the fact that the team, it was strengthened to some extent. Like even with this last season, we probably spent the most we spent in a long time, but we only still finished like 5th. So like I think it's that patience thing in terms of like, we look at the market, what other teams have spent, where they've ended up, why aren't we doing the same thing? So then you start looking at the manager, right?
Yeah, and I think it's funny because I think all of you, I know Joe touched upon the ownership, and actually Michelle's kind of, probably skirted around it as well, and actually Billy's said a few things, and again, Joe, not Joe, is it Josh Kroenke? Like
the son.
Again, I think when you put a face to someone, or like a figure, it makes them more human. And I'd say like a question to you guys. Let me start with Billy. I mean, I know you're a Chelsea fan, so of course you've like kind of gone through a takeover anyway. But like looking from the outside, do you think like the kind of Kroenkes have done a decent job at Arsenal?
I mean, for me, it's still too early. I know it sounds mental, but if there is a project there with Arteta and they are fully backing him, then I think we need to look at both of them in that aspect and see what they can achieve together. I've heard a lot about, was it the Kroenkes?
Yeah.
I've heard that they don't put as much money into the club. They're not 100% fully invested in it, from what I've heard. But you can see that there is a plan there, and as you saw from the episode, he's got an idea as well as the manager. He said, like, well, he had a meeting, didn't he? And you saw on the board the players in what positions, what they need, and he's clearly got a plan, and he feels that Arteta's the best man for the job.
Yeah. I feel like watching that first episode, I'm not going to lie, that's the first time I saw them present, like any of them present. Like, you see the dad and you'll be like, oh, and the thing is, I've always had like a dislike towards him. But then watching that first episode, I was like, oh, that's the son. Like, he's actually in the boardroom. Like, he spoke to Saka after, I don't know how staged that was, to be fair. Like, after the Euros, like, I was like, He sent him a text, apparently. Okay. But I think that was probably the first time I saw like them present. So maybe
I think that was genuine. I think he did send him a text. Okay. I mean, I know what you're saying, and it is for TV, so it could quite easily be staged, but I think he did. I mean, I could be well wrong here, but
no.
The type of mannerisms he showed, I think he was very genuine.
Yeah, I think, and the fact that he was actually, I think that's like I said, like I feel like because he was present, I'm like, actually, I do believe like he is authentic. But the thing is, before that, I hadn't really, even me as an Arsenal fan, hadn't heard too much about them. Like I heard they was more invested in their kind of American kind of sports and teams, and they didn't really care that much about the progression of like the club. But then I don't know whether it's the fact that obviously we started like, protesting and actually being quite vocal towards the owners. But I think actually most clubs have been, vocal towards their owners for a long time. I don't think Arsenal fans ever have been. And I think the first time was like, obviously when the Super League conversations happened, that's when you saw like Arsenal fans actively protesting, which for me, in my time, like I hadn't seen that before.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Of course, with the whole Saka situation, and of course, I mean, Ramsdale kind of mentioned it as well regarding the effects of social media. And again, they were, very open in terms of how they feel about it. What do you guys feel about, football and social media? And, do you think it's right for players to even have certain platforms on? Because I think there was a snippet where I think Ben White must have said to one of like the teammates, like, "Oh,
yeah, 50 million,
50 million, yeah."
But I mean, again, I'd literally love to get people's opinions about social media and literally how, and again, even if you look at it, they took a lot of their clips from Twitter. Like, they were very active on looking at or kind of getting context for the show from Twitter. So I'd love to get people's opinion about that. It's open, yeah.
I could go first if you like.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think that people, especially fans, are very quick to judge. So, for instance, for Chelsea today, I'm not going to talk about Chelsea all day, don't worry. But
you can, especially today.
Example, I've seen like everyone giving stick to Mendy for his mistake. And yes, people make mistakes. Yes, the thing is, footballers are just as human as the fans. And I think fans don't see it in that way. I think fans see them as players who should be perfect, who never make mistakes. So when they do make a mistake, they absolutely rinse them on social media. And I just don't think it's called for. But then, again, you have to argue the fact that footballers put themselves at such a high level, and they also open themselves up to the public. They're playing on TV, or you go watch them at the game. They are constantly in the public. So, I mean, it can go either way. But I don't think that I think the fans are very quick to judge and give players hate. But I noticed players who perform well don't necessarily get as much praise. So if Saka this season goes and scores 20 goals and gets 10 assists, he'll be like, yeah, fair enough, he had a good season.
No, he'll get a lot of praise. He does.
Well, Saka's a golden boy.
Yeah, I think what we're trying to say is just negativity is so much easier. It spreads quicker than being positive or especially trying to be positive in such a bad situation. But it touches on what we all discussed on another call actually about like society in general. Like football's changed, so now you've got, you know, players are looking at Instagram, at streamers, at what people believe, at what TalkSport say. You know, in the week you had Klopp commenting on Gabriel Bonglahor on TalkSport. Their eyes are open, and the good thing about that is if you use it responsibly and you've got sensible people in front of a camera, is you can literally channel a fan's opinion right up directly to someone. You've never had that before, so it can be a benefit. But people, just as they are in life, are so quick to judge, so quick to be rude, and I think social media, some people shouldn't be allowed social media because, you know, if it's all right saying a player isn't worth 50 million. I thought Ben White handled that quite well, to be fair, and had a little bit of a laugh about it. But people can be very personal with insults, and I think there's a difference between being negative and saying, you know, oh, Saka didn't have a great game today, or he's not getting enough goals, he needs to get in these positions. I think you can criticise someone but I think it's the level of personal, the level of hate that you can get. And they're only people. So some people would say, oh, they're paid enough money, they should ignore it. But they're the same people that want their voices heard through social media. So it has to be a two-way communication tool. But I just think people need to, when you criticise, it's fine to criticise, and players are going to accept it.
Yeah.
But when you're, you know, abusive and verbally stating stuff that is opinion based and very rude, I don't think that's necessarily even a criticism. That's just being a damn right horrible person, and that's for any social media.
I guess it's to do with the money, right? That's in the sport, because like Ben White called out, like, you know, 50 million. I'm not going to lie, my eyes were raised when I was just like, what? How much? I was just like, really? But then, and the same way we were talking about it earlier in terms of like the cost of some of these plays, but it's actually not their fault how much they cost, right? But we as fans, you see that cost, you know how much they get paid a week. You pay for your season ticket as well to see these guys perform. So it is to do with the money side and the business side as well. So I think that's where the additional criticism comes from as well. And I guess it's one of those things where, like, like you said, they are human. Like, and to be fair, it comes with the territory, right? Like, and if you're put on a platform, you have to take the rough with the smooth as well, right? Like, I remember I think it was like maybe a couple of seasons ago where Ainsley Maitland-Niles had a terrible game, and literally they were ripping into him, and he actually replied, I think it was on Instagram, and he replied just going, I'll do better next time. And I remember seeing that, and I was just like, I think that made it human in that moment, because I think everyone was just a bit like, oh crap, like, we forget that sometimes these guys can see it, because, you know, when Ramsdale was like, he turned off his notifications in the first episode in terms of like when he got signed, etc., because we just think sometimes they just don't look at it. But these guys are sometimes looking at it, because obviously the same way they go into like the training room and they're going through like tactics of every team, like sometimes they will look at it just to, you know, some people, as you said, like some commentators, some like, you know, pundits might see something that they don't see. So they kind of do lean into that aspect sometimes. But yeah, they are just human. But I do think you kind of have to take that rough with the smooth, because, you know, it comes in peaks and troughs. Like, you know, you'll get praise, like, it does work both ways. Obviously, when it gets nasty and personal, you can't really help that. But
I think you can take the rough with the smooth. But I think that comment can be quite dehumanized, because that's implying that everyone's the same. Some people can't handle it, just like normal. Yeah. So they are normal people. So there's 4 of us here. If we were all famous, I can guarantee at least one of us 4 or 2 of us 4 will be very susceptible to that sort of negative social media world. So I think you need to be a little bit, I'm not saying don't give stick. I actually fully believe everyone should criticize if they want to on social media, but they're people. So one player may be able to take it. And, you know, I think it's a different job in the game. You know, you hear about teams now where they've got psychologists on camp. They've got, you know, people that are in the medical setup that are not just there from a physical perspective. And football is, if we're going to look at them as humans, some of them won't be able to take it. So
yeah. No, it's very true. It's very true.
What do you do with them people? Do you know? Would you say, well, don't look at it at all, or do you try and get them? Yeah, I know that's not what you're trying to say, Michelle. I know you work.
No, I get you. I just think, if that's something that you can't deal with, then you need to come off, right? A bit like what Ramsey did, like turn off your notifications. Like I think you can't, like that's the thing, you can't have it both ways, because obviously when you're playing well and like you're getting all the praise, like the comments, I love that, they're amazing, right? Like I can imagine like every single player, Arsenal player, well, apart from maybe Xhaka, but is getting like a lot of props. A lot of props because of the way they've started, but it does come with the negativity. Like as I think Arteta said it quite well in terms of like England as a country are the best at building you right up and then bringing you right back down. So I think we're quite aware of that's the English kind of mentality. Like, you know, probably no other country or no other league does it in the same way as we do. So it's kind of you kind of prepare yourself for that. But if that's something you can't deal with, I think just come off social media. It's the easiest way. I know enough people that don't even have like WhatsApp. Like it is possible, but I just don't know how possible it is if you want to then build a brand, get sponsorships. You can't have it both ways. Do you know what I mean? That's what I mean. You can't have it both ways.
I imagine some players are almost told to, because it's part of their sponsorship with Nike or someone like this. So it's definitely something that needs to be managed in the modern day game, because, you know, if you leave it, some people are not going to do well. And actually, if I was a manager and I had a player that weren't doing well with it, is it just easy to go, oh, we'll just turn it off? Well, no, because they've probably got contractual agreements and all sorts. They're going to see it. So I think it's something that's going to become more common, that you'll see players and psychologists in clubs that help with stuff like this, because it ain't going nowhere. You know,
and you do get like clubs that manage people's social media, because not all of them manage their own social media.
No.
Like they do, you do get like clubs who actually, and it's very functional. Actually, I think actually the person's social media I saw the most functional was Mane's. Actually, I don't know if Fabrice, you noticed that as well. Like he wasn't really on social media at all, and it's quite functional stuff he puts out. So that's clearly not him. Like it's probably not even his nature to be on social media. But so you will
person.
but you do, it's just someone like who manages that account. So I guess that's another side note on that social media front. But it is an interesting debate though, because actually, like as you said, if it's part of their sponsorship, then you make that call, right? Like, do I want to do this Nike sponsorship and like, you know, get my money? And I have to take the social media, and you're like, some people might see the small price to pay, some people might see it's a lot to pay. Then you make that decision yourself. I think the interesting part of social media that comes into the game is like when people like after a win and like, so who was it? Was it Roy Keane that was like, he hates it? Like in terms of after you win, like you're posting pictures on Instagram, like he went on a massive I'm like, do you know what? That's interesting, because actually we do see, like when watching that first episode of All or Nothing, like after like what was it, the Norwich win, like this excitement, and I was a bit like, that was 1-0, like I wouldn't be that excited, but obviously for them it meant that they could then kick on. But again, they would have posted on social media, that kind of thing. So like it's that balance. And I kind of get like Roy Keane's point in that respect, like why you kind of like going to show on social media, but the game's different from when he was playing it to like now. So I think obviously social media as well gives you that access, that close access to fans. Like to be fair, like stuff like All or Nothing, like the fact that they use so much social media is because they had that instant access to fans' thoughts, like general themes of how people were feeling, etc. Like that's how they knew that the Arsenal fans were disconnected to the club, because otherwise, like I don't know how you'd pick that up. Well, to be fair, the riots and like the protests. Actually, it was very clear. It was very clear. But yeah, I think that's the thing. So it kind of can be used in a good way. And actually, I think we touched upon it before, like Arsenal Fan TV. Let's not lie. The biggest followers are non-Arsenal fans that watch that, because actually every time Arsenal loses, all my friends that support Man, like they're like, yes, let's go to Arsenal Fan TV and just laugh at us. And I'm like, well, fair. So actually, then you get that interest. Actually, to be fair, like in terms of like beyond just your fans, like then you get other fans supporting as well.
But are you getting the right interest? Because people watch them show. I mean, we'll probably touch on it later, but people watch them shows. A lot of them are nothing to do with Arsenal. They are their lips. So is that gaining the right interest?
But I think, to be fair, an audience is an audience, right? Like this is what makes like certain clubs a big club, because there's a natural interest in it. I know, to be fair, there's two sides to like, and I think we'll talk about it later.
not if it's an interest in constant failing.
There's two sides to it in terms of like, actually, like, is it a good thing for the club? Is it not? And I've got both opinions on it, but you still get that interest. Like, people are talking about your football club. Like, for me personally, if there's an interest, if you're not even a fan, and you're able to have that, you still want to come and watch our content, go for it. Like, I don't mind that, as long as your criticism is actually valid and it's not just, let's just sit here and laugh at Arsenal. But just know that kind of banter will come straight back. All those Man United fans that are laughing at us, I'm coming to find them. So
where are you?
Exactly. Where are you now?
So I just want to give a big shout out to like Shane Johnson, who's in the comments. Let me just read one of his comments. And again, funny enough, he was actually talking about Ben White before we even mentioned him. He said, he said that by the Arsenal team, it's a very strong season, Ben. But your right back is the weakest position for you. Ben White just won't cut it. I don't think as a right back, but I think he's a centre back though, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's been playing right back, and actually he's not been too bad because of Gabriel and Saliba, because they're almost so solid. They've pushed Ben because he's probably the best baller and the player that can. He played right back a few times for Brighton. He's not necessarily a progressive right back, but in Arsenal's formation with the creativity they've got in midfield, I think that's why they're okay playing that way. Because, and actually, I'll say he's not progressive. In the last game, he was very progressive. He made their first or second goal for Bournemouth getting forward. So he's not an out-and-out right back. I don't think he can be 50 million's worth in that position. But you know, we've gone from. Well, I say we. I'm not an Arsenal fan, but.
You are deep down, Joe. Come and join us.
Never.
Oh, that's strong, isn't it?
So you've gone from what? Maitland-Niles and Cedric and people like that. I mean, these players, he might not be 50 million in that position, but he can pass the ball, and he's a lot better than what you've had the last couple of years. So
you had Lichtsteiner as well, didn't you? At one point.
Yeah, I do think Tomiyasu's slightly underrated. I think we haven't seen, like, he hasn't played consistently because obviously he was injured quite a bit, but I think he's like a bit of an underdog for that kind of right back position as well. I think I've seen him, like, I didn't, to be fair, I'm not gonna lie, like when I watched the games at home, I didn't see it, but when I watched it live, like actually just watching his movement, like interceptions, like he's very solid, but I just think he hasn't had enough consistent play. But I think I don't know, I think Ben White, he's been all right. Like, I mean, our defense for a long time has been in a shocking state. So to be fair, if no one's making mistakes and like conceding goals, even Saliba, he conceded a goal. But to be fair, the reaction of the fans was brilliant. Actually, it showed how much Arsenal has moved on in terms of like, actually we can concede a goal, but we can actually push on. I think there's a lot more confidence in that back four. So I think Ben White, I think he's doing a good job, and I think with Tomiyasu interchangeably in that position as well, I reckon we're doing all right. Well, we're better than
I'd agree with Shane. I would agree with Shane in the sense, I don't know if this is what he's trying to put across, but you're not going to get the best out of him in that position. I don't think.
Fair. No, that's fair. That's fair.
But that's a good dilemma to have. If you've got £50 million player, you're happy to play right because your centre halves are in great form. It's a good problem to have. But in the long run, you know, when you do start having testing times against the big clubs, you know, you've then got to push Ben White back into his normal position where he hasn't played for a while. If you get injuries or yellow card suspensions, which you will have during the season. So
no, it's true. Well, red cards. I'm hoping that's a thing of the past of Arsenal now.
You still got Xhaka in your team, yeah?
I know. Do you know what?
You never know. So you guys touched upon it briefly, and again, like, you know, this is just only episode 1. I know that there's probably about 8 or 9 episodes that are out, but in terms of what I've watched so far, anyway, AFTV haven't really been involved, and you know, let's be real, that I think they are like the flagship channel for like for football fans anyway. Billy, I mean, what's your opinion about that? I mean, why don't you think it's been involved?
It's a tricky one. I feel that potentially they might not want to talk about it because they feel that they're the only ones that have the social media to Arsenal, if that makes sense. So between the actual football club and the fans, you have Arsenal Fan TV. And I feel like they may have seen it as a competition, perhaps. They may have seen it as someone else has come in. They've done a better job because they can actually go in the changing rooms. They can go into the training grounds and all that lot. So they might just be maybe not jealous of it, but they may have just not liked the fact that someone else has come in and done a better job potentially.
Okay.
I think there's been some separation, right? Because it used to be Arsenal Fan TV, then they made them change their name, right, to dissociate them from the club officially. So I do think there's that thing of like they want to keep that separate, as Billy was kind of saying. I do think it's mostly because of the fact it is quite toxic, right? Like if you speak to most like hardcore Arsenal fans, they hate AFC TV.
Really?
Because a few of my friends are literally just like,
I can imagine that.
Hate it because of the fact that it fuels so much kind of negativity for the club, and a lot of people do feel like it's that negativity is towards the club. It's not about like progressing it in terms of like actually like positive, like we should be doing this, should be doing that. It's a lot of like raw anger towards the club. Like, fair enough, there'll be some occasions like, you get the likes of Troops that gets overly excited about like, a win or whatever it might be. But what fuels AFC like Arsenal Fan TV is basically the negative. When we lose, that's when it spikes, right? And that's what people go there to watch, right? So it's that negativity that is associated with that channel that I just don't think, especially for this documentary where, they're trying to progress, they're trying to like highlight the process that Arsenal are going through, that, there's going to be like peaks and troughs during this process. If you're going to bring like Arsenal Fan TV in there, you're just the best bits are the when we lose, right? So actually, is that jarring? Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, I just want to quickly touch upon that. You said that when Arsenal lose, that they do spike and stuff like that. My brother's a United fan, and I'm a Chelsea fan, and we actually share each other the Arsenal Fan TV links when they
everyone
lose. We actually
literally it's like people rub their hands when Arsenal, especially when we have like a terrible loss and someone gets sent off. People are literally laughing. They're literally ready to watch that over Match of the Day. So that's basically what's become known for. So I think it is interesting that like not even like Robbie got like an interview in that. Like I think that's very telling. Like Henri's obviously all over it, but like I think that's very telling that even Robbie, because even Robbie, he's just a host, right? So he doesn't get show. He's quite neutral in that respect. But even the fact that he didn't get involved in it just shows that there's a level of like disconnect that Arsenal want to have with that channel. Even though it's done really well, it's great because obviously it has some knock-on effects on the club. But I think that it's just because of how toxic and negative. And as you said, like most people that watch it aren't even like proper Arsenal fans. It's like Chelsea, Liverpool, like Spurs, like everyone goes there just to have a good old field day with Arsenal.
Obama what?
Obama who? Obama what?
For me, I agree with the club's disconnect. I'd be really concerned if my club endorsed a channel that does breed negativity. I don't believe. I've watched shows where they've actually been asked this question. They've had a discussion about it. Some stuff's about direction and subconscious. So they're Arsenal fans. So they originally would never have created a show that almost was designed for everyone to watch when they lose. However, they never sort of rain checked themselves by the looks of it and thought, how are we coming across? Because their views are going sky high. Yeah. So all the times you've got sky high views, you're not going to say, oh, hang on a minute, we're not working. But I think that was probably the biggest issue that they had, because I don't ever think they wanted to be and Robbie is definitely neutral and it's a really good channel. I don't think they wanted to be like that, but they didn't stop themselves, and that was their biggest issue. And if I supported a club that endorsed that type of negative connection, I think as a neutral fan, like the fans that you were talking about, Michelle, that don't like that channel, I'd want to give up, because now you've got them almost in control of how the fans and how everyone should feel. Yeah. And I think that's starting to become an issue, because it's not just that. It's what I was talking earlier. It's good if you see the odd bit of aggression and passion. We all have it. But that was week in, week out. Yeah. And, you know, it's not even a laughing club. People are watching it, and, you know, DT and the other chaps in it were fuming, angry. Like some of the words they were using. And if that's a one-off, that's okay. But if that's every week, I mean, you know, they say that they want the club to get better. But can you imagine if the manager, you're saying that, oh, I wish the manager had more passion. Well, what would you do if the manager was acting like you were doing every week? And how do you think the team would perform?
Yeah.
I think we live in a crazy world where we believe that, you know, we're the most passionate, they don't care, and can just put that across every week. But, you know, and question the board and managers and people of the game, when actually, look how negative you're being. It's not even just negative. It's I used to love it, and I used to love it when Arsenal lost, just to watch it.
Yeah.
And then I realised, why am I watching this show now? I am watching it now for pure entertainment of watching angry, rude, abrupt people. And then actually, what am I doing? So I sort of stopped tuning into it all the time. And I don't think they've done it on purpose, but they had long enough of breeding that behaviour that if it wasn't just about views, they could have scaled it back, and they didn't.
Yeah, definitely.
I think with Arteta as well, he had a board in the change room. I'm not sure if it was the first episode or the second, but I only want to touch on it quick. He said that there was heart involved. You've got to have heart. You've got to have a big heart, but you've also got to use your brain as well. You can't just have all heart and you can't have all brain. I think a lot of the AFTV lot, I think they are just pure heart in it.
Yeah.
I think they are pure just passion. They love the club. If they're losing, they hate it. And sadly, from the recent past, Arsenal have been losing more than winning. So a lot of it has been on that. But I think, I think that if they not even use their brains, because I think that's harsh, but if they, like you said, Joe, they didn't realise how negative
toxic
they are.
Yeah.
And Arteta, actually, he said one quote from the first series, which I thought was a really strong quote, and I thought about it. And he said, football is about giving people, fans, positive emotions. He didn't say football was about winning. He said positive emotions. Now, that isn't just winning. That is the performance. That is how the fans feel. That's giving your all. That's doing a lot of things that is not just about winning. That's about having a plan, playing a style of football. And that's what positive emotions are. So sometimes you have to, as a Pompey fan, I've seen my club go from, Europa, like UEFA Cup, down to League One. We've had money, we've had nothing. And there's been times where we're literally on the bones of our arse. And even now, when we're on the way back up, every week you'll get people say, oh, the owners ain't spent this, they haven't done that. But there has to be a cut-off point as a fan where you allow yourself to see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And and I thought that was a real strong quote by Arteta. That's the one that stuck out for me in that.
I think Michelle touched on it briefly. There's Arsenal fan TV, but of course, Robbie, he's a neutral, and again, like he loves Arsenal, and it's the fact that they had KSI that did a snippet, and I'm like, okay, there's like nothing wrong with him, but it's like, oh well, okay.
I'm joking.
I mean, but like I don't know, like it was just telling for me. But again, we don't know if maybe Robbie maybe later on down the line. We don't know. But
I think just quickly with the KSI thing, he actually is a sponsorship with Arsenal now.
Just now, yeah.
Yeah, Prime. So that, yeah, they were connected beforehand. So it just shows you, to be honest. But I think Robbie, yes, he's neutral, but he's the owner of the show.
Yeah,
he's got to take some responsibility.
Yeah,
I mean, let's not go into all of the off the camera stuff of AFTV, which has not surprised me. But Robbie is the owner, the one who pushes the content out. He's made quite a few quid, and rightly so. I've got no problem with that. He could have scaled it back. He could have gone a different direction. He chose not to because it went with the views. And I actually like Robbie. So, and I don't think that was probably subconscious. I don't think, because he loves the club, he loves his football. But you have to be accountable. And if you're putting that out consistently, you can't all of a sudden say everyone else was negative and Robbie was quite laid back and unbiased and never was really rude. But he was creating that.
Yeah.
No, fair point. Thank you to everyone that's tuning in. Please click that like, subscribe, and share button. So let's kind of talk about. I believe it was against Norwich? No, Norwich. When Arteta did that kind of heartfelt speech before the game, and again, this is literally what I think, like the all or nothing kind of really kind of stands above anything else in terms of those really intimate and private conversations that we're just not privileged to to actually see or watch. Michelle, I'll actually start with you. With that speech, regarding, of course, his kind of heart defect and literally what he kind of went through, and literally when like he was talking about it, like how did you feel, just listening to that? And has your perception changed of Arteta slightly because of that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very personal story. I think I forgot how much he cares about that connection between him and the players. I must admit I forgot that, because I think I was obviously too wrapped up in the losses and the disappointment of not making the top four last season, etc. Like I was wrapped up in that kind of narrative. But when I watched that, it actually reminded me as well of the Manchester City All or Nothing, in terms of like how he was very much like one-on-one relationships with the players, like really talking to them about what they did. I think Sterling was a perfect example. Like I can't remember what game it was, but Sterling like missed the opportunity, and actually like he was talking to Pep, and Pep was like, what did you do wrong? And so I didn't listen to Arteta. And then when I watched that speech in that first episode, I was like, oh gosh, like Arteta is that type of manager where it's all about the players, like one-on-one. You kind of see it in the clips of the episode, like when he's sitting on the ball talking to, who's he talking to? I think was it Ramsdale, Ben White, like sitting like literally that one while like training's going on, like he is that personal. So like that, the story I was a bit like, I didn't know he had that heart issue when he was like a baby, but I was a bit like, it reminded me exactly the type of like manager he is. It's all about that one-on-one personal relationship with the players, like really making them feel good, understanding what they're meant to be doing, and really like focus on each one of them. And actually I think all his speeches were like, even like I'm fast forwarding on to another episode when he brought in a photographer, like he literally looks for what the team or what players need at that point in time, and he delivers that. So yeah, I think it was a brilliant speech. And I think for me, I was just like, oh gosh, like he really does care. Like generally he does care. Like there's a love for football, there's a love for the club that he's willing to like be quite vulnerable actually in front of like his players as well. So then they can actually be like open up, either way, open up or work harder, etc. for him. So I think, yeah, for me, it was a bit of a reminder of the type of coach he is, and also a turning point in terms of like, actually, he does really care.
Cool. Yeah. Joe and Bill?
I mean, Joe can start off if he likes.
Yeah, I mean that chat, it was like Michelle said, it was nice for him to show a vulnerable side. But I've got to be honest, I don't feel like the dressing room was extremely engaged. I looked at the dressing room, it's just maybe the feel I had, but at that time, I don't feel that they all bought into him. And obviously we know now what's happened with Arsenal since. So, that he possibly felt that as well, because I think the players Arteta has eventually shifted out will not just be due to quality. It will be a lot of whether you know, they take on board what he's saying and really have got that same belief and values and love for the club. Because, you know, you see Aubameyang roll up in his gold, whatever it was, and gold outfit. And I just feel a little, you know, maybe I'm over-analysing people, and he's a person as well. He should enjoy the finer things of life. But to me, he's stuck out in this first episode as someone who's look at me and not necessarily engaged. Whereas you've got Ramsdale in that first episode who's just joined the club, who speaks excellently. You know, you see his family, and I don't know if that's first or second episode, but the way he's being interviewed, how much camera time Ramsdale got, considering he hadn't even played a game yet.
But isn't that just based on the fact of the narrative that they want to tell? Like, we all know what happened. Like, Aubameyang gets stripped of captaincy, he gets shipped out. I think that has a lot to do with the narrative.
How they edit it.
Yeah, I 100% believe that. I think, like, not that I'm not condoning Aubameyang, because, you know, I feel like he had his issues, but I think, like, you can't deny, like, that bond and relationship between him, Saka, Lacazette, Eze. There's certain, like, cohorts within the team, and I think Ramsdale, because of, like, where he's gone to, where he's come, like, obviously he's playing for England, like, he's playing for England as well. So, like, I think it's just the way it's kind of the narrative has been edited. So, like I said before at the start of the show, like, I was a bit like, they didn't go into much detail about Lacazette and Aubameyang being ill, because I remember when that happened at the time, and we were just like, really? Like, that's a bit of an odd thing to. I mean, not that everyone gets ill. Obviously, COVID was rife, but there was a lot of rumours that something had gone on in a dressing room, or something had gone on with Arteta, and they'd just been benched. Like, that was the rumour. So I do think there was a lot of editing that went on in that respect, in terms of,
and of course they would have edited it to suit that narrative a little bit, because we know what's happened now, and they ended up leaving. But the reason I say that, take away, regardless how they've edited the show, I think if you see the dressing room this season, regardless of result, like before they played a game, compared to how Arteta was putting that story across, big up. Oh, sorry, I couldn't help but watch my. But I think you'd see a much more engaged dressing room. I think Arteta was giving his all, and I felt it was a bit flat. And yes, it was flat because of results, but I don't feel like the engagement was there. And also, it didn't seem like there was any leaders. Almost.
Yeah.
You know, it seemed like they were a bit shy. They were a bit in the show as well. They were talking about. I think it's first or second episode where they're talking to Smith Rowe about, coming out of himself, being a bit more of not just his football. So I must have seen it differently. But when I see that first talk what Arteta was given, I fully backed and enjoyed and was like, yes, that's amazing. I don't think the players were there. I thought it was sort of 50-50. Yeah. And if you've got Aubameyang rolling up every time, and he's a great player, he's a good player, he might be going to Billy's Chelsea soon, so we'll see. But
look how the emotion has changed. Went from hating him, lazy, now it's going to be your player.
I never hated him.
Okay.
I didn't see anything that shows he was with Arteta, to be honest.
I think with Arsenal, when they went through that phase where they got Ozil on the big money, Lacazette came in with big money, Aubameyang, all them lot, I think, in my opinion, that Aubameyang has every right to splash his money on how he wants. If he wants a gold shiny car, he can get a shiny gold car.
Yeah.
I don't think that I agree that I don't think the changing room was paying full attention. I mean, after hearing it, I was ready to go on the pitch and play for him.
But he's Bill. He's he's got every right to. I'd have a nice car and rolling up in gold suits. But the point I'm making is he's club captain at that. Yeah, well, when the show kicks off next week. No, but he's club captain. So when I'm looking around that room and the personalities of what Arteta's trying to put across, you want your captain there.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly interject on that one, because if you've watched the rest of the All or Nothings, especially the Tottenham one, I mean, this is not me being biased to like Paul's Arsenal, but
here we go.
Even Kane in those dressing rooms, all I ever heard Kane say was, "Come on!" throughout that whole documentary.
Yeah, but that's because he can't speak.
But still, he's a captain. He leads obviously by example on the pitch, but I just don't think like that's everyone's fault. And I must admit, the cameras, I don't know, one made people shy or whatever. But yeah, the same way you're thinking about Aubameyang was in the dressing room, Kane was the same way during the All or Nothing series as well. Like he literally didn't say. I don't think he gave a speech. I know I say he can't speak, but even as a captain with your kind of colleagues, like you'd think you'd say something. He didn't do that then. So I don't think that's a reason to be like, oh, Aubameyang. Like
no, I didn't see him engaged. It's not the vocal part for me.
You can say that, but with I think it's the second episode as well, the cameraman, like the actual photographer of Arsenal, gave a really emotional speech as well. And Aubameyang looked so engaged in that. He was fully committed to that. And then after the game, after they won, he gave him his shirt and said that we'll sign it for you.
Yeah.
So there's probably two ways of looking at it. I mean, I can understand that, but I do think that Arsenal have lacked in the captaincy for a while. I don't think Aubameyang should ever be a captain.
No.
I think he was given it based on I think he was given it based on really good performances and probably, and to be fair to him, getting Arsenal out of a really difficult period where he was for 2 years maybe the main scorer, playmaker, and they would have been worse off than even they were them couple of years without Aubameyang. So maybe that's why he was given the captaincy. But just because you've got a good relationship, you see it with managers quite often. It's not necessarily that Auba was wrong, but he certainly, and we know now that he certainly didn't click with Arteta. Now that's not necessarily just his fault, but you have to have a captain that is going to be, in some shape or form, got the right values. You look at Keane, you look at Roy Keane and Ferguson. Not just after, obviously, it's well known that they don't get on, but beforehand, they had loads of falling outs.
Yeah.
But they were always in tune with, this is what United expect. This is how we're going to do it. These are our values. I can't imagine. To me, it seems, and we'll see later on in the series, but I think that's the breakdown. It's the disconnect between different mindsets.
But do you think it's fair? Because, I mean, let's look at this realistically here. Maguire, he's not a captain. He didn't ask for the captaincy armband. So you may go, oh, well, Aubameyang had good form, therefore he may have been captain. We don't know, but did Aubameyang ask for the captain's armband? If he didn't, we can't then hold him accountable for being a captain when he hasn't been picked here.
No, but even if he did, people change. So where he was happy, probably playing well at that time, it still wasn't benefiting Arsenal in terms of a project and long term. So once that shifted, it probably affected him quite a lot, because when Arsenal were struggling to even make them top four places, but Auba was still scoring what, 18, 20 goals a season, you know, he would have been... It sounds selfish to say, but we're all human. He would have been happy with his own performance. So then when Arteta comes in and starts changing the style of football, he's no longer scoring the goals he was. Maybe that's the cause for the disconnect, because that's not Aubameyang's fault. He doesn't change the formation or look at the plan of the team. That's Arteta's job. So maybe that's what the disconnect was. It's not always someone's fault, but...
I think, like, same with Ozil, I tend to stick up more for players than managers anyway. So when that whole Ozil drama happened as well, I felt very bad for Ozil, because he had a hard time since coming to Arsenal. He was struggling. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was a time where he was picking a young Smith Rowe who wasn't playing particularly well over Ozil.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with them sort of older players, you have to take into consideration them things as well. And like you said, the formation, the tactics, and how you play isn't your choice. It's down to the manager. The manager wants a false nine. he'll play a false 9. He won't play with a full striker.
Well,
So
Wayne Rooney.
depends on that bits.
Wayne Rooney once said the season he had for Man United, where they played him as a number 9 and he scored 30 goals, was his worst season as a professional footballer. Because he hated playing it. So that's got a lot to do with it. And I don't think, through no fault of his own, but he didn't benefit the team's plan.
But you have to also take into consideration that Rooney's one of the best Premier League players we've seen.
Let's not talk about Rooney. Let's not talk about United. No, I'm not having it. Sorry,
that's the most vocal he's been.
I'm putting that down right now.
It was just an example of how players can, even if they play well, if they're told to play in a certain formation or area of the pitch, they will be unhappy if they don't like the philosophy. So Aubameyang went from 2 years of being the name, the people that were drugging. He was almost solely the person dragging Arsenal out the mud, to then go into a team that's expected to work harder, to play football more, and actually he's not fitting in at all. So
he also did pick him at left wing for a few games as well, Aubameyang. You have to think, like, he is a striker.
He used to play at the wing of Dortmund as well. He don't always play out top.
But he got all his success from Dortmund as well. You have to think what team he was in, how comfortable he was in with that team, how the manager was playing with him, and how they all sort of conjoined to obviously comparing to Arsenal. So, I mean, he has played on the wing, but it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how he comes across in the further shows, I think, on how engaged he is.
Well, how many episodes he lasts in.
Yeah. So, before we go on to the next question, I just want to say one thing. I think managers now have to talk to players differently. You can't really imagine Sir Alex or Brian Clough, opening it up like that. But again, players change now. They are, like, it is what it is. So to kind of connect with like certain players and to get everyone on side, I think people now want to go onto a journey and a story. It's not necessarily about the money anymore. I think that's what I'm seeing with Arteta, especially in episode 1. He's kind of building something from the ground up.
With that, so you touched upon, what was it you said, that he you have to talk to players differently now. I don't know about how you lot were, but when I was playing, I still am playing football, but like I prefer a manager to go, Billy, mate, you're playing awful, get your gears going and play properly, rather than someone going, it's okay, mate, just chill out, it's fine. And I think younger generations now are a lot more easy. They're easier to be upset.
Yeah, but that's because they've got 50,000 comments from Joe Blogs and everyone else. They don't need a manager to tell them they're crap. It's plastered everywhere.
But I think the only opinion that would matter to me if I was a professional footballer would the managers, my family, and close friends. They're the opinions that the other opinions, they can have their opinions, but the opinions that matter, the fans ain't gonna pick me to play. The managers. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it all depends on how the players see it and how the players react.
And that's ultimately what we were chatting about earlier, the downfall of social media, right? In terms of like, people now do care what everyone else thinks, because actually they can easily see it.
Yeah.
And even if they don't even easily see it, like, people find them, send them stuff, like, it is mad.
Yeah. People have always cared. It's just more accessible now. Yeah. So now you get everyone's you get 100,000 people's feelings in 2 minutes after a game.
100%.
Whereas you never used to have that. So
So the next question, and I want one name, either side. I just want a name. Don't have to explain anything, because I think we're gonna kind of go into more depth on like your show. Just want 2 names.
One name or 2 names?
I just want 2 names. I don't know explanation. 2 names.
Yeah.
Best and worst players at Arsenal right now. And I'll start with Billy. Just two names.
Oh, I was just going to say, don't start with me. I'm thinking.
It's not hard.
The best for me, Saka. The best for me, Saka. That's a clear.
Okay.
The worst. I don't know if Michelle or Joe has a clear worst, but I'm thinking for mine.
I think Saka and probably Xhaka's my worst. I think with Xhaka, it's just too.
No explanation.
Oh, sorry.
No explanation.
But to be fair, when I was just thinking Joe's gone missing. Oh no, Joe's back.
No, I was just looking at who's out at the moment, but yeah.
To go on, Joe, you say yours. I was about to go on a whole.
No, go on, Michelle.
No, I got told off. I need two names.
Okay.
I heard this cry.
Two names. I want two names.
Saka, best, and Pepe worst. And I know I know that's a big statement because there's probably players that haven't got his ability, but if you spend that money and you get this sort of.
No explanation, Joe. I don't need no explanation.
People are going to hate me, but Ben White, I'm saying.
Okay, wow.
No way.
Which is cool because again, like this is going to be an amazing topic on the new show that you guys are going to be hosting, which again is going to be happening real soon. Guys, honestly, like it's been hopefully everyone out there has literally enjoyed our kind of conversations. And again,
I'm going to get slandered.
Again,
just turn off your notifications, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And again, again, we're not sponsored by Amazon, but hey, you know what? Amazon are doing a sterling job, doing like a lot of these football behind the scenes stuff, and again with the Arsenal series or documentary, honestly, this is just something I just love. So yeah,
we're not sponsored by Amazon yet.
We're not sponsored by Amazon yet.
But we're available.
In the pipeline.
We are available somewhere.
Available.
Yeah. So again, honestly, Billy, thank you so much. Michelle, thank you again. Joe, pleasure as always. So guys, again, watch out for the new show called This Week's Starting 11. Again, I'll be kind of posting like a lot of stuff on the Amateur Football channel. Again, watch out for these three amazing people. Honestly, I don't even want to talk about what you guys talk about offline, but it's just honestly, it's absolutely amazing. Honestly, so honestly, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, guys, please like, subscribe, do all of the great things. We'll be back next week. And yeah, again, watch out for amazing comments. Amazing content. Have an amazing Sunday, guys.
Catch you later, guys.
Yeah.
Cheers. Take care.
We'll see you later.
Bye.